So this whole prostitution issue has got me thinking lately. Um, yeah, I made a recent video, uh, basically responding to Be Serious about prostitution and its legality, and she responded um, uh, that sex trafficking is actually higher in countries that have legalized prostitution. Not wanting to be uninformed in this, I looked it up, and in fact, it is true that um, Germany and the Netherlands are two of the big target countries for sex trafficking. Um, it also happens to be that the United States is one of the top countries for sex trafficking, and not just in Nevada where it is legal. Um, but I think the more general trend seems to be that the trafficking is coming from poor, underdeveloped countries and going towards rich Westerners. That basically it's good. So I mean, but anyway, I think the example of Netherlands and Germany does show um, that simply legalizing it isn't enough. That there's actually that we actually need to be a little bit smarter about how we deal with it. Um, and I have to admit, part of the foot sparks is I just have a strong instinctual revulsion to any sort of prohibitionist mentality. I have that kind of I have a rebellious spirit that says no one tells me what to do. And logically speaking, I realize that there's got to be limits to that. Um, but so the other big prohibition area is drugs, of course. And my attitude on drugs used to be that we ought to just legalize everything. Let if you just had it so that drug dealers were licensed businessmen and had their own professional office and sold drugs, that somehow that would just and just make everything work out. And of course, the big poster boy country for drug for liberal drug policy, if you will, is the Netherlands, particularly in the city of Amsterdam, um, where you can buy pot in these cafes and where they have the annual cannabis cup. And I've been to Amsterdam. It's a wonderful place. I was there with my parents, so I didn't get to partake, if you will. Um, but in any case, there is a reaction against that in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, though, because of all the drug tourism that goes there. Um, a lot of people don't like all these pothead Americans going over to their country to try and smoke dope with them there. Um, so so it does have its backlashes. One of the more underreported uh, success stories in drug legalization is Portugal. Um, a lot, back in the '90s, Portugal had a huge drug problem. High rates of heroin addiction, kinds of drug crimes going on. And in 2001, they decided to decriminalize everything. Not legalize. It's not that you can go into your corner shop in Portugal and buy a bag of heroin, but but if you get caught with a bag of heroin on you, you're not in trouble. Uh, Everything is any personal use is legal as long as you keep it to yourself. And um, I think that ought to be a starting point for for a good drug policy. I don't think that that's good enough in itself, because I think that some drugs should be able to be sold in stores. Pot being the biggest one, And I think that actually in America, our experience with dispensaries has shown that uh, legal dis- that legal sale of pot needn't be problematic. Um, so I and so I think that uh, first of all, with drugs, it should be that that anything like that that goes on in your own home is your own business. Um, there also ought to be some standards in place to regulate quality, and but anyway, I guess I should mention so the effect in Portugal upon doing this is that drug use rates overall are down, and hard drugs are have particularly gone down in use. Um, and so I think that's a huge success story, and one that ought to be mimicked by other countries. Um, so I think that simply the whole either legalization on one hand or prohibition on the other hand is not really a helpful dichotomy. I think that there ought to be a set kind of middle ground, and so I think there's a way that prostitution could potentially be legalized. That there's some issues we need to look at and ask ourselves how those issues are best dealt with. The sex trafficking issue. Well, so apparently women are sent to brothels by or they're imported from other countries into these brothels. Well, I mean the brothels should presumably be registered with the state, right? These women often have their passports revoked by their pimp, and make it so that they're without a home or a country, and don't have anyone to go to. So it seems like the state ought to be auditing these places frequently, not just for health, because there's one thing that, like for example in Nevada they do at the brothels is trying to test for STDs and all that. Um, but also check for citizenship. Make sure people have the right to work there. I mean, that's two birds in one stone. It's on the one hand addressing our illegal immigration issue as well as the sex trafficking issue. Um, so it seems like that would be one of the biggest things. The other thing is a lot of the places where where the sex trafficking is coming from are largely third world underdeveloped countries and being shipped to first world developed countries. So economic policy, I think, would be a big issue, big thing in terms of assisting the development. Um, so I mean, I don't have all the answers, but it seems to me like there are obviously there are issues with things like this, but uh, we shouldn't take those issues to mean that we should just throw in should just demonize it and say that it's inherently wrong and just try to prohibit it. It seems like there's a healthy middle ground that needs to be explored. Um, I think that in general regulation is always preferable to prohibition. So anyway, that's my thoughts for now.